Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Ali AI. Start your free trial now.
Hi everyone, thanks for again sticking around when it's sunny outside. Pretty tough competition. As they said, my name is Fiona McGovern. I'm going to be talking about impact of AI on search, implications for content strategy and SEO. I'll start really quickly a little bit about who I am, evolution of AI and SEO, how it's changed, and how do we respond. So luckily I am covering AIOs, so you learned a lot from Crystal already, and I'll shift into the AIO topic. Who am I? So as I mentioned, VP of Account Management of EMEA at Conductor. Conductor is a website optimization and intelligence platform. I'm originally from New York, started with the business over 10 years ago, and I've been in London for the last 7 years looking after our customer base. So really ingrained in the SEO space for the last 15 years and looking at a lot of data through our platform. So excited to be jumping into this. So what's been going on? When we think about AI and SEO, I know for myself, I particularly think about the last 6 months in particular. It just feels very fresh and very new and very different when we think about the SERP results page changing and altering things of how we've normally done them, certainly impacting our clicks, our rankings, our visibility, makes everyone panic. But when we really think about AI and SEO, it started way before then. Started back in 2015 with RankBrain and has been consistently evolving in all capacities. Google's constantly thinking about AI when they're thinking about the search engine results page. But something that stands out, of course, are the AI overviews that are now impacting our experience in the UK since August, and really changing how we interact with the search engine, the information they want to provide to us, and what we'll talk a little bit about is what we've seen so far and how we can prepare for it. But yeah, it's nothing new. So the evolution of AI and overviews in 2024. This is obviously, hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to interact. If you're in a market where AI overviews haven't rolled out yet, maybe you've had less experience with this. But historically, if I was looking to go see the Northern Lights and I did a query particularly about the Northern Lights, I might get a snapshot, maybe an answer box, maybe some people also ask, and then I would start to dive deeper and understand, a lot of information about the process of going to see the Northern Lights. This has really shifted with the update of the AI overviews rolling out in that in one answer, I'm getting all of that information of where to go, when to go, how to go, which travel company to book through, all of that information just within one. You'll notice obviously all of the links are there, and it's critically important that as these things are changing and Google is now summarizing our experience of the SERPs, that we're able to pivot and provide the right information that we're part of that conversation, which is certainly changing. Google, of course, followed a phased approach. The idea between a phased approach and just automatically doing things is to avoid issues, but they certainly didn't do that well. But obviously, towards the end of 2023, we started to see beta testing where people could access the AI overviews, interact, see what sort of different results we were getting. And we saw throughout that time that they were testing a lot of different variations. In May of 2024, it rolled out across the US where we were seeing this much more frequently and obviously getting more comfortable with what this looked like. At that time, they hit a couple issues, which we'll jump into. And as of August, it launched in the UK, as well as a few other markets. So getting more exposure and opportunity to dig in here. Of course, meant to avoid confusion by doing a phased approach, but there were certainly some issues, which I'm sure many of you have heard of by now, but I think they're really, it's like funny, but it's also super concerning because people go to Google to ask questions that they would potentially never even utter aloud to people that they're close to. There's a lot of trust and respect for the search engine to provide us with good quality, trustworthy answers. So when they get this wrong, it's quite concerning. Some of the most popular examples were Google suggesting that we add glue to pizza to keep our cheese on it, which got a lot of traction. Of course, in this instance, they're kind of teeing it up, saying how much glue do I add? But there were other examples as well where it was suggesting to actually add glue. So pretty concerning. There was also a suggestion that we eat 1 rock a day for minerals and vitamins. Just wild, really, to think about a place where you go for like some of your most intimate personal questions and you're getting these sort of suggestions. I don't know why this one doesn't bother me as much, the running with scissors, but try running with scissors to increase concentration and focus. Like, I kind of understand that to some degree, but still wrong. Like, no, you can't do that. And then since it's rolled out in the UK, I was doing some cooking, baking specifically, and it suggests that I use a hairdryer to melt chocolate. As someone who's like not an expert chef, I don't really want it when things are, not going in the right direction. I don't want them to send me even further in the wrong direction. So some concerning results. It definitely it gives you pause, right? For a place where we all go, where we trust. And it's about, if anyone knows Conductor, the brand, the business as a whole, this is a hugely popular slide we've used for probably 10 years now. And it's remained true that when you're thinking about the heart and mind of the consumer, the audience, your, the people that you're trying to connect with, it's really important to consider their questions, their needs, and to help them through the process of search. So sending them in the wrong direction, causing confusion, creating issues is not ideal. But where is this coming from? It's really important. So who said we should eat 1 rock a day? Apparently it was The Onion, a satirical magazine, which some people may have heard of. And Google misinterpreted this as being factual and then was therefore feeding this as a, insight and actual truth. And who suggested that we put glue on our pizza? That was user-generated content. I'm not sure specifically which forum it came from, but it came from a forum. And Google responded to provide this context so that we were aware and informed. Was the reason for these mistakes, but certainly a challenge when you're starting to evolve the whole process of, where we're getting results, where we're pulling them from, and ensuring that they're correct. So Google responded again by giving, an explanation as to why this would have happened, and vowed to make better detection for nonsensical queries not worthy of AI overview. So in the example of a rock, suggesting that we eat a rock, if there isn't a ton of content on why to or not to eat a rock, then it's potential that someone like The Onion is going to rank and perform well in that scenario. Making AI overviews rely less heavily on user-generated content from sites like Reddit, although what we've seen is a huge spike in Reddit over the last year, so we'll look at that as well. Offering AI overviews less often in situations where users haven't found them helpful, and strengthening the guardrails to disable AI summaries on important topics such as health. So obviously, Google's committed to make these changes, and how do we tackle this? How do we ensure that we're doing everything that we can from our side? Number 1, relax. I know it's very overwhelming when things are changing. Don't panic. It doesn't really help the situation. And I think remembering to focus on the basics is really what's most important. Going back to that core of thinking about your user, the audience, the reason why you're creating the content, creating informational, helpful, trustworthy content is really what's key and going to ensure that you're successful. It goes back to all of the core things that we know. 65% of users feel a brand is trustworthy, positive immediately after they read a piece of educational content from that brand. 78% agree that they found the brand helpful immediately after reading a piece of educational content. And 83.6% when deciding between 4 brands are going to choose the one that provided the content to purchase or sign up with them. So really reinforces everything that we know. Even though there are changes and things to come that are different, focus on the basics, go back to the core, the things that matter the most. But where do we double down and what do we do that's new and different that perhaps we haven't done before? So as I mentioned, we work with a lot of large brands globally. And I would say that focusing on user-generated content is not a huge topic area, but certainly something to consider when we see the impact of forums, of Reddits, and thinking about how we can get involved. So one step back, does everybody know what user-generated content is? Content published by an unpaid contributor. You're going to think about the likes of Reddit is a pure and good example for this. So this is what we've seen with Reddit over the last year, a 395% increase in terms of their ranking and visibility. Now, this isn't typically something or a place where like a brand or a lot of organizations that we've worked with historically would play, but it's certainly a conversation that you want to be part of. You want to have that data, you want to have that insight. If Reddit is providing answers to your audience, to your consumer, to your end user, it's important that you're part of that conversation as well, that you're collaborating, that you're investigating it, and certainly not just leaving it to a Reddit user to answer questions that you want to be a part of. And this actually from Lily Ray, she posted on LinkedIn a few weeks ago that the forums are skyrocketing. So it's not only Reddit that we're seeing, but it's really across the board, a huge spike because of this inclusion of the user-generated content to provide answers across the board. So just really, really important that you're thinking about that as a key piece. I would suggest in terms of like your workflow and strategy and what we do from a data perspective is to track Reddit as a competitor, understand where they're showing up for queries that are critically important to your business, ensure you're part of those conversations, you're answering those questions and you're engaging in that way. Otherwise, you're left out of the conversation and you're not ranking, which is not ideal. Authorship, going back to the core, obviously focusing from a trust perspective, ensuring that the author component of your site is focused on the person or the expert. Who are they? Why should you be listening to them on this topic, on this particular industry? And how do you do that? You create an author page, you create a link to their LinkedIn, you reference other articles they've created, Wikipedia, ensure all of these things are up to date to reinforce the trustworthiness of that author. That allows you to validate and again, ensure that you're performing well when they're referencing why you. Good example of this, LinkedIn profile, name, title. And then shifting a little in terms of like, how do we react on like a day-to-day basis? It's really important that as, Google is making faster, more immediate impact on these results and how they're doing things, that you yourself are also powering yourself from a content perspective with AI as well as a technical perspective. So ways that you can actually incorporate AI recommendations around your content. This specifically from our platform where they're giving you AI optimization techniques, specifically on updating a piece of content. This allows you to be faster, implement changes quickly, and really understand how you're going to be able to get ahead versus doing things in a more manual, 2022 approach. So thinking about fighting AI with AI, both from a content perspective and also a technical, automating as much as you can from a technical perspective, making sure that you have site monitoring plays, something from a 24/7 on view that's going to allow you to respond quickly, mitigate risk, and adjust accordingly. Specificity. This is also hugely important too. If you go back and think about that Northern Lights example, it's walking me through where to go, when to go, how to go. Being as specific as possible on the content that you're creating is going to allow you to actually be successful. And if you're not, you're just not going to be part of the conversation. Again, using technology that's going to allow you to understand what questions do you need to be answering to be part of that conversation so that you are showing up is critically important. And then highlighting and answering those questions very specifically so that when Google is referencing something, that you're included. Otherwise, again, you'll be left out of the conversation. So being as specific as possible, again, going back to that end user and thinking about their questions, how you help them move through the consumer journey, is really how you're going to stand out. Otherwise, it'll not work. And one of the other really key components is real estate versus ranking. So historically, we've been, more focused on our rankings, but things are changing. The SERP is changing, and it's important that we pivot and we shift with it and think more so from a real estate perspective. How are you engaging with your customers outside of your .com? Of course, your .com is hugely important, really, really important that you are focusing on that. But where are people having conversations about your brand or about things that you need to be a part of that you're not already? So really making sure that you're capitalizing on opportunity that exists outside of your .com as well. How much of your SERPs do you own? How are you tracking this? How do you have that insight? How are you monitoring it? How are you pivoting as you notice changes as things are updating? Who are the experts in your organization? This feels, easy to me. And of course, it's challenging depending on the organization, but really, really focusing on, how are they writing articles on your site? How are you leveraging them? How are they in the right conversations? And really making sure that you're tapping into that opportunity that exists. And of course, video assets, where are they hosted? Making sure that outside of your traditional means of content, you're really thinking about the application and ways that you can be involved in all of these different areas. As things are changing, it's really important that you adapt so that you can stay part of that conversation. But to recap, specificity, authorship, real estate first rankings, critically important as just a starting point on all of this. And if we're going to jump down into more of the basics, I think it's really important to just think about the most simple steps. Number one, from a data perspective, understand when you're showing up in AI overviews. Every technology, hopefully by now, including our own, will give you this result so that you can see where are you showing up, when are you visible for an AI overview, which keywords are Google providing an AI overview for, are you visible? If you're not, who else is visible? Assess all of this, understand when you're showing up, when they're showing up, what type of content you need to create to be more specific, to be involved in that conversation, whether you're winning or losing on those. UGC content, this is really, really important. Again, I think in many different ways, it's only going to become more important. So make sure you're part of those conversations outside of your .com and in the other arenas where people are talking about things that you should be involved in answering. Automation, fight fire with fire. Make sure you have an automated process from a content perspective that is AI powered, that allows you to be nimble, agile, quick, and really, the pace of being able to keep up with these things is just as important as anything. So AI-powered content and AI-powered technology to really ensure you're taking advantage of that. Specificity, again, can't be more direct about this, especially when you think about that plan of going to see the Northern Lights. How do you get answers? How do you become part of that? You have to be specific. You have to be detailed. The authorship, I think this is pretty straightforward, but making sure there's that trust and authority with your brand in terms of why you should be the one that is, providing the answer to a specific question in a specific industry on a specific topic, reinforcing that and making sure that the whole organization is bought into that. There's so much to tap into from a business when you really think about it in that context. And finally, don't panic. At the core, nothing is changing too much, right? Google wants to ensure that users, consumers, your audience is having a good experience, that they're getting answers to the questions, that there's less manual work of me going through multiple people also ask and just says, here's your itinerary for the Northern Lights. So thinking about all of that, keeping that at the core of everything you do, but ensuring that you're innovating in the ways that are going to be most impactful based on what Google is already telling us they're doing. They've informed us that they're, including user-generated content. So keeping that in mind, pivoting, making sure that you're putting that in as part of your process is critically important. To make sure it all goes well. With all of that said, again, you stick this slide yet? It's 3 times now, but it kind of gets back to the point in terms of what matters the most from a business perspective. And closing out, we have 2 conferences coming up, one in New York and one in Berlin. If you're interested in attending, let me know. Otherwise, if you have any questions, you can reach me at Fiona@conductor.com. But thank you all so much for staying.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.